After days of being at sea, Rila was elated to thrust herself overboard and onto the sandy shores of Rajtarika. She lay herself onto the sand, taking a moment to appreciate the unmoving ground beneath her.
Land! You shall get sand in your cracks, sis.
Pithara remarked as she stepped over the writhing girl. She had grown accustomed to Rila's odd ways while spending time with her on the ship. Behind Pithara was Davomir. His demeanor had relaxed as the voyage progressed, and he almost seemed at peace with the world today.
Let her be dramatic now. Maybe then we shan't have to deal with it on the road.
I would not hold my breath, were I you. Came Emeri's voice teasing from the bow of the Andine. Rila quickly sat up and roughly brushed the wet sand from her gown. This one's a handful. Triff soared overhead. She was just as happy to have reached land, but wouldn't dare to touch down in the sand as she had no intention of spending the next solstice bathing it from her fur. She settled upon a tree branch and stretched out her legs. Once forgotten but familiar scents drifted like seasonings upon the wind. They had landed near a cluster of pod entrances where the farm dwelled below the surface.
Were we planning to go round or through?
Around, until we have no choice but to go through. Do not worry, Triff, I remember. Like always, we shall travel along the coast until we hit the Fesliyan tunnels, where we shall have no other option. That is, unless you would care to swim into Gaetana.
Like always? I was beginning to think that Lady Naroma never took you on any of her previous research and expeditions. 'Twas certainly beginning to sound that way from our chats aboard the ship.
Oh, no, I mean, yes, you're correct. She never took me on any of her previous expeditions. She merely informed me of the route that she always took because, well, Triff does not really wish to have a surprise family reunion whilst we pass through Rajtarika.
I see. Where is the closest coastal city from here?
Quarter day's walk up the beach.
Triff called down from her comfy perch, which Rila repeated for the group in Quoditian.
We had best start moving then. I hear that the Drench in Rajtarika can be vicious at night, and I am just too pretty for puncture wounds.
Pithara pulled the strap of her bag over her head and let it rest on her shoulder. The coasts of Rajtarika were all similar in topography, with wide beaches speckled with foliage, the ocean to the east, and rocky mountain passes to the west. A mixture of sand and salt rode on the mild breeze, which rustled through the dead leaves beneath the bright summer sun. They all gathered up their belongings and headed north, making excellent time to the next village thanks to the favorable weather conditions. By the time they reached Harbil, the day had only been half depleted. As Rila stopped to look at a vendor's stall, Emeri found his attention drawn by a flashing light in the corner of his eye, the blacksmith stall. Shining, glittering swords in perfect condition hung on display from wooden railings along the front of the smithy's shop.
Oh, my lady, please wait here a moment.
He asked of Rila over his shoulder. His eyes were affixed to one sword in particular. Emeri walked over to the sword and removed one of his gloves in order to run his naked fingers down the blade.
Oh, quite a sword. Perfect for killing Vulcanite.
He lifted the sword from its wooden perch and gave it a few practice swings. The blade was perfectly balanced and extremely light in weight. He admired it for a moment, wishing that he could afford such a beautiful masterwork.
Hey, you planning on buying that, son? Pony up some coin or get out of my shop.
The smithy bellowed from his forge within. The sound of a hammer against metal clanked out from an anvil as the hairy and sweating man worked.
Sorry, sir. I could not help myself but to...
Emeri's eyes scanned the nearby crowd, and it was then that he realized Rila had gone.
Oh, shit!
He quickly shoved the sword back onto its wooden display and ran back towards the stall where he had last seen her.
Lady Rila? Lady Rila!
Emeri cried out, pushing his way through the crowded market. A pit of panic began to grow in his stomach.
Are you imbecile? What sort of knight allows his attention to be drawn from his charge?
Emeri cursed himself as he searched. He ran through the metallurgy district, past the herbology stand and through the food markets, but he could find Rila nowhere. A small crowd was gathering near an alley and drew Emeri's attention.
I heard that a woman was beaten to the point that she was returned to the Titan Gods.
No, she was not beaten. She was killed by a taken marked. Was she really? I heard that some trunk got crushed by falling boxes down there.
Look at all that blood. Someone was definitely returned to the Titan Gods.
Emeri scanned the nearby alley, trying to hold back the panic swelling in his stomach. Rila was not included in the crowd, nor was there any evidence of who or what had been slain in the alley. Swearing under his breath, Emeri turned and ran for the edge of town. He prayed that Rila would realize she was without protection and head straight for the rendezvous, and he prayed that the small crowd in the market was only spreading rumors. As he jogged back through the small town, all Emeri could see in his mind was the gruesome scene he had left behind in that alley. Could that have really been a person until now? There had been no hair, no clothing, no bones or organs left behind. Only a large red stain. Emeri shuddered as he pondered what sort of monster could do such a thing and began to run faster. Greetings once more, wonderful watchers. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all for your likes, your subscriptions, and your time. You are truly a beautiful soul, and you are deeply appreciated. You deserve to know that we have a Patreon page available for you to join, at your kind leisure, of course. The YouTube algorithm is worse than a rampaging horde of Vulcanite, and our generous patrons allow us to continue our battle against it. Furthermore, there are certain episodes that YouTube would frown upon, and thus are only available to our patrons. Please do think it over, and enjoy the rest of your day.